To start off our day, we have business and immigration law updates. This is presented by Ramesh Khurana, who is the Chief and Senior Attorney at Law at the Khurana Law Firm located in Gaithersburg, Maryland. Joining him on screen today is another famous attorney of our region, and that is Mr. Kenneth Haber from Boyd's, Maryland. Today, these two gentlemen are caught in a discussion about age-related expectations for U.S. citizenship and the exam requirements. Let's find out more.
Welcome. My name's Kenneth Haber. I'm a former Assistant United States Attorney, and I'm a former Assistant Senior Attorney from the Office of Inspector General of the United States Department of Health and Human Services. That's the Inspector General's office, who are the IG cops for Medicare. And with me today is Attorney Ramesh Khurana. Ramesh has a practice in Gaithersburg, Maryland, that covers literally the whole world, because his is an immigration practice, and people come from all over the world to seek his assistance and advice in how to deal with the U.S. immigration issues. Ramesh, welcome.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate your generous introduction.
Well, it's all true. I've entrusted my wife with you handling her immigration matters. So
it was my pleasure to work with you.
I thank you very much. Yeah. I understand today we're going to be dealing with some age-related exceptions to the U.S. immigration exam requirements.
Sure.
The older you get, I understand, the harder it is to learn a new language, to memorize factual material. Does U.S. immigration law allow older naturalization applicants to request easier versions of these examinations?
Ken, this is really a very, very good question. The answer is yes. U.S. Immigration Department really realizes, as you rightly said, as people grow older, now their mental and physical disabilities of course get affected, and sometimes very hard to remember things. So there are certain rules which come into play when you are talking about old age exceptions for the purpose of naturalization or citizenship application. Now, if you are age of 50 or older and you are worried about the U.S. citizenship examination, I am sure this segment will be very beneficial for the audience. Now, there are situations when so-called waivers are available. Now, immigration laws do allow older applicants for naturalization to request easier versions of the English and Civic Tests. And otherwise, under the normal circumstances, standard is completely different from the people who do not come within these exceptions.
Well, that's good to hear, because I know how, at being a little older than others, that sometimes the memory isn't quite as on ball. It's still probably, if we're talking about my memory, better than most people's, but it's not what it used to be. So
I agree with you.
It's good for other people to have that available to them.
Yeah.
Could you please tell us if a green card holder that's age 65 or older can have some easier versions of the civic test that's asked of them?
Yes. This is called basically 65-20 rule. What does it mean? Those green card holders who are of the age of 65 or older and who have lived in the United States as permanent residents or green card holders for the last at least 20 years. When we say 20 years, that doesn't mean continuously. That is the total period of physical stay in the United States. Like people have been going back to their home countries, or they are going on vacations to other countries, because that will cut down their presence in physical presence in the United States. But the total cumulative period should not be less than 20 years. Answer is yes. They can take an easier version of the history and government. This is called the civics exam that is required of the naturalization applicants, and this is commonly referred as 65-20 rule. So under this rule, they will be completely exempt from the English test, and as regards civics test is concerned, there is a shorter version available.
They'll have to know who George Washington was, I assume.
I know, that's right. Those kinds of questions. You remember this question?
Yes, I do.
From your wife's exam.
That's right. That's right.
That's interesting.
I didn't forget that.
Yeah.
What's the best way to locate the easier questions in the study material?
I would say go to uscis.gov. This is a website where you find very useful information about the immigration issues. So, once you go on this website, you will see the study material for the civics test page, and USCIS provides these questions in different languages also, and you can see a list of 100 questions on this website, and then you can very easily identify the questions with a star or asterisk, basically star next to them, which are the only ones that may be asked of someone who qualifies for 65-20 rule. So,
they're going to tell you in advance what the questions are.
yeah, because even for the normal people, there are 100 questions as regards civics test is concerned. So, those people have to remember 100 questions. Here, those people who are qualifying for 65-20 exception, they are not even remembering 100 questions. There is a shorter version available of the civics test. Yes.
Okay. Well, it's good to have the asterisk by them so they know which ones.
That's right. You know, this is a very interesting topic because sometimes people are sitting with green cards and they think that they do not have the ability to speak and write English. Probably they cannot qualify for the naturalization application, but once they know it, I think sometimes it is important to be naturalized to become US citizen. Of course, you get your right to vote and you can get a job with the federal government. For most of the federal government jobs, the requirement is that an applicant should be a US citizen, plus you become entitled for Medicare and other benefits. So, it is important.
It's very important. It's
Yeah.
also a commitment.
Yes.
It's a commitment. You're saying this is your country now.
Yeah, this is the country of my loyalty. Yes. And especially once you have lived here for 20 years, so what else you need to prove, you know, that you really love this country. But
right.
only thing is, get through the process, get the naturalization process and obtain the citizenship application.
And for those people who are afraid to, because of the fact they think the test is going to be too complicated, just remember to look at the asterisks if you're over 65.
Exactly. And the good thing is they are asked only 10 questions. Out of 10 questions, if you have answered 6 questions correctly, you pass the exam. So, it's so simple.
Yeah. Well, nobody should pass it up.
Yeah.
What are the I couldn't help that one. What are the requirements of the 50-20 and the 55-15 exceptions for the advanced stage?
Okay, I know it makes you laugh, but believe me, these are the rules.
Yes.
That these are the rules to have the naturalization application go through. Now, when you say 50-20 and 55-51, it simply means if you are of the age of 50 or older and you have lived continuously in the United States for a period of 20 years, and likewise if you are of the age of 55 and you have lived continuously in the United States. Again, I would like to say emphasis, when we say continuously, that does not mean that you have never been abroad for 20 years. So, that is the cumulative time. Of course, you should never be spending more than 180 days at a stretch. So, these exceptions are available, and you know, otherwise in most of the cases you need to show that you can speak, read and write English, right? The officer will ask the applicant to read a short piece of text out loud and to write a sentence that the officer says aloud or he is dictating. So, that is the process of taking the exam, which you have seen basically.
First hand.
Yeah. So, officer would like to ask the applicant, can you write a sentence like, let us say, today is a pleasant day. Very simple question, very simple question. And you have to simply write that simple sentence. If you can write it well, then of course you pass. But you know, if you are of the age of like I said 50 and 55 and lived here 20 years and 15 years continuously, then you can take the benefit of these exceptions which are available, but you have to ask for that. If you don't ask for that, you don't get it. Now, good thing is that application form for citizenship application, now this has been revised and updated, and these are the questions which are available in the application, which they would ask you whether you are seeking these kinds of exceptions. You have to simply mark yes, so that the officer who is going to interview you as an applicant for citizenship, he knows it in advance that you are seeking this waiver. Otherwise, if you haven't marked it and you go there and then you say, I want to take this exception, maybe I didn't understand this question, so please correct this answer, officer is going to be frustrated because he is not ready for it.
Yeah, you don't want to frustrate an immigration official who's interviewing you for citizenship, that's for sure.
Exactly. And other thing is, Ken, when you are there and you say that you are seeking a waiver from English language, then you need to have an interpreter with you, because there should be somebody who has to translate what you are speaking in your native language. And this interpreter can be a professional interpreter, he can be your distant relative, but he has to be there. If you do not have an interpreter, your attorney, if he is accompanying you, he cannot translate what you are saying, even if he knows your language, because of conflict of interest. So, sometimes people will show up without an interpreter, officer is left with no option but to reschedule the interview. You know, what can I do? And most important thing I tell you, even though you may not understand English, still you have to understand the meaning of taking the oath, because you take an oath that, like we were talking about the loyalty, upholding the US Constitution, right? So, you should be able to understand the meaning of the oath, otherwise you do not qualify to be naturalized to US citizen.
It means something when you take that oath, because this is the best country in the world for anybody.
Right.
And that's how come we've expanded so by immigration. This country, the majority of its growth over the decades, the centuries, has been through immigration. So it means something that you take the oath knowing what it means.
Right. And the good thing is that once you qualify under the exception, then when we are talking about the civic test, which is basically very a short version, under the shorter version, you can basically you can even say that your interview should be conducted in your own language. So, even to answer those civics questions, so you have an interpreter, he will interpret the question for you and you will answer in your own language.
And then he'll interpret it.
Yeah, exactly. So, they have really made it much easier, but you should be having the will and to move forward, how to apply for the naturalization application and get all the rights as US citizen. If you are just sitting at your home and thinking, oh my God, I don't know English and I don't know whether I will pass or not, you keep on sitting as a green card holder, you are denying yourself the right which a US citizen can have.
That's right.
Yeah.
We've talked about the exceptions from the English or civic exams. How about the question as far as requesting one of those exceptions? How do you do that?
Yeah, nowadays, as I said, the application has been updated and revised. Basically, they ask you 3 questions. Are you 65 or older and you have lived in the United States for a continuous period of 20 years? So, if you answer yes, that gives a clear message in advance to the officer that you qualify under this exception. And likewise, if you are 50 or older and you have lived in the United States for the last 20 years continuously, again you have to mark yes. Or you are 55 and have lived in the United States for the last 15 years, again you have to mark yes when this question is asked on the N400 application. Officer will have a notice and you will be given a treatment accordingly.
Very good. Very good. Is there any in the last few moments of our session session here, is there anything special you'd like to tell the viewing audience that might be most important to them about this process?
Yeah, we were talking about using the services of an interpreter. If you are asking for exceptions from the English language, I would suggest better you take a professional interpreter so that there is no problem about conflict of interest even somebody is your relative with you. Because once I faced this problem and the officer was not feeling comfortable when a relative was accompanying him, and of course he disclosed that I am his relative, he was not feeling comfortable. So this is what I would recommend.
Well, I thank you very much for coming on in and elucidating on this topic for the viewing audience.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.